Americans didn't suddenly become lazy and gluttonous. We're being mass poisoned,
Yeah.
right? And it's obesity, then it's three other major categories: neurological diseases, ADD, ADHD. These are all things that I never heard of as a kid. Okay, ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, autism. Autism rates when I was a kid were 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 1,500, depending on what study. Today, 1 in every 34 American kids is diagnosed with an autism disorder, and in California, 1 in every 22 kids. That's one category. Neurological, autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease,
yeah.
all of these, and then diabetes, which is the biggest. When I was a kid, a typical pediatrician would see 1 case of diabetes in his lifetime. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. 1 out of 3, 30%. Wow. What happened? It's now costing us more than our military budget, mitochondrial disorders. And we're, on the other end, another mitochondrial disorder is Alzheimer's disease, which is now called type 3 diabetes. It's all being caused by the same thing: poison food. We know what's causing it. It's poison food. It's all the seed oils and the ultra processed food, processed sugars, and flours, and all this stuff that's in. We have 1,000 ingredients in our foods that are illegal in Europe. Okay, and we're the only country that allows this stuff. And then the last category is allergic diseases, which are like peanut allergy. Did I ever know anybody with a peanut allergy? No, I never heard of it. Nobody in my generation ever heard of it. And now it's every classroom. Why do 5 of my 7 kids have allergies? Right? None of my siblings did. I didn't know a single person in my generation who had it. And so all of that, and then eczema and all these other asthma, all these other allergic diseases that exploded. And Congress actually said to EPA, tell us what year the autism epidemic began. And EPA came back and said it's a red line, 1989. That's when it changed. That was the change year. And if you look at all of these diseases, it was all around the same timeline. Suddenly in 1989, they all exploded. And so you look at what happened in 1989, and it was the beginning of really this cascade of processed foods that we started eating. And also the vaccine schedule changed. We went from 3 vaccines to 72 vaccines, and that's part of the issue. But it's mainly we're just mass poisoning. Our kids are now swimming around in a toxic soup. And it's costing us. The cost of chronic disease when my uncle was president was 0. There were no medicines for it. It essentially did not exist, and it was so rare as to effectively not exist. And today it's costing us 4.3 trillion. And nobody else has this like us, right? There's some countries that are starting to climb. But during COVID, we had the highest body count from COVID in the world. So we had 16% of the COVID deaths in this country. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. So we had by far the worst record of any country in the world. And it's impossible to understand why people are getting awards in this country for managing COVID, because they did literally worse than anybody on earth. And CDC says, well, it's not our fault. The problem is Americans are so sick. And CDC, right? CDC says the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic disease. COVID wasn't killing healthy kids. It was killing injured people. It was killing people who were already, extraordinarily damaged. They had asthma, they had obesity, they had, diabetes, and one other disease. And we died because nobody else has anything like this. And so Make America Again is about addressing what's causing it and eliminating those causes. And I know how to do that.